Here's what happened when you started doing just one push-up every morning. Nothing. For 3 weeks, absolutely nothing changed. But then something clicked. That single push-up became 2. 2 became 5. 5 became 20. 6 months later, you completely rebuilt your body, your confidence, and your entire relationship with challenges. You see, most people think success comes from those big, dramatic moments. The all-nighters, the massive life overhauls, the perfect Monday morning when everything finally clicks. They're wrong. The real secret? It's hidden in the boring stuff. The tiny decisions you make when nobody's watching. The small promises you keep to yourself day after day. Right now, there are people living the exact life you want. They're not smarter than you. They're not luckier. They don't have some special talent you're missing. They just figure out something most people never will. And for the next hour, I'm going to show you exactly what that is. Welcome to the Power of Consistency, your complete guide to mastering the art of small, daily actions that create massive results. You know that feeling when you start something new with tons of excitement, and then 3 days later, you're back to your old habits? Yeah, we've all been there. The gym membership that gets dusty, the book that stays half-read, the morning routine that lasts exactly one morning. But here's what nobody tells you. The problem isn't your willpower. It's not your motivation. And it's definitely not some character flaw. The problem is that nobody ever taught you how consistency actually works. Over the next hour, we're going to dig into 7 simple but powerful ideas. No fluff, no complicated theories, just practical stuff that actually works in real life. First, we'll look at why your brain fights you every time you try to build a new habit. Then we'll figure out how to start so small that failure becomes almost impossible. We'll talk about setting up your environment so the right choices become automatic. And yes, we'll cover what to do when life gets messy and throws you off track. By the time we're done, you'll have a clear roadmap, not just for building one habit, but for becoming the kind of person who follows through on what they say they'll do. Find somewhere comfortable to listen. Maybe close your eyes if that helps you focus. Let's figure this out together. Chapter 1, the foundation of all success. Let's start with something that might sound a little crazy. The most powerful force in the universe isn't gravity. It's not nuclear energy. It's compound interest. And I'm not just talking about money. Warren Buffett figured this out early. While other investors were chasing the next big score, he was buying boring companies and holding them for decades. Not exciting, definitely not flashy, but it made him one of the richest people alive. Here's the thing that blew my mind when I first learned it. Buffett made 99% of his wealth after his 50th birthday. Not because he suddenly got smarter, because time and consistency finally caught up with his small, daily decisions. But we live in a world that sells us the opposite story. Social media shows us the highlight reel, the overnight success, the person who suddenly became famous. What we don't see are the 10 years of daily practice that nobody watched. Your brain is wired to want immediate results. It's not your fault. For thousands of years, immediate rewards meant survival. See food, eat food. See danger, run. Our ancestors didn't need to think about what would happen in 6 months, but that same wiring that kept us alive is now working against us. You start working out, and after 3 days, you step on the scale expecting to see a difference. When nothing's changed, your brain says this isn't working, and you quit. You read for 20 minutes and wonder why you're not smarter yet. You eat a salad for lunch and get frustrated that your jeans still feel tight. This is what I call the consistency paradox. The actions that matter most in the long run feel completely pointless in the short run. Think about brushing your teeth. Skip it for 1 day, nothing happens. Skip it for a week, still probably fine. But skip it for a year, and you're looking at some serious problems. The same principle applies to everything else. Miss one workout, no big deal. Miss 1 day of reading, you'll be fine. But miss 365 days, and suddenly you're a completely different person. Here's where it gets interesting. In Japan, they have this concept called Kaizen. It means getting 1% better every day. Not 50% better, not even 10% better, just 1%. If you get 1% better every day for a year, you end up 37 times better. Not 37% better. 37 times better. That's the math of consistency. But if you get 1% worse every day, you decline to nearly zero. That's also the math of consistency. Most people think success is about those big moments. The promotion, the breakthrough, the viral post. But really, success is about what you do when no one is watching. Let me tell you about bamboo. Chinese bamboo is planted as a seed. For the first year, nothing happens. You water it, you care for it, but you see nothing. Second year, still nothing. Third year, fourth year, still nothing visible above ground. Then in the fifth year, it grows 90 feet in 6 weeks. The question is, did it grow 90 feet in 6 weeks, or did it grow 90 feet in 5 years? Obviously, it took 5 years. The first 4 years were spent building a root system strong enough to support 90 feet of growth. Without those invisible years, the dramatic growth would be impossible. Your consistency works the same way. Every day, you don't see results, you're building roots. Every small action that feels pointless is actually creating the foundation for something bigger. The problem is, we live in a microwave world. Everything's supposed to happen fast. Order food, get it in 30 minutes. Want to watch a movie? Stream it instantly. Want to learn something? Google it in 3 seconds. But your body, your brain, your relationships, your career, they don't work on microwave time. They work on crockpot time. Slow, steady, and eventually incredible. This is why most people quit. They start strong. They're motivated. They can picture the end result. But somewhere between day 1 and day 100, when the excitement wears off and the results aren't visible yet, they give up. They don't realize they might be at day 89 of a 90-day breakthrough. Here's what I wish someone had told me 20 years ago. The gap between starting and seeing results is where most dreams go to die. But it's also where ordinary people become extraordinary. The people you admire, the ones who seem to have it all figured out, they're not special. They just learn to keep going during the invisible phase. They understood that boring consistency beats brilliant inconsistency every single time. Think about water dripping on a rock. 1 drop does nothing. 100 drops do nothing. But 1,000,000 drops applied in the same spot, day after day, year after year, will carve through solid stone. Your daily actions are those drops. Reading for 20 minutes every day won't make you smarter tomorrow. But do it for a year, and you'll have read 20 books while everyone else was watching TV. Doing 10 push-ups every morning won't give you muscles next week. But do it for 6 months, and you'll be stronger than 90% of people your age. Writing 1 page every day won't make you a writer overnight. But do it for a year, and you'll have a 365-page book while everyone else is still thinking about writing someday. The secret isn't finding the perfect system. It's not about having iron willpower. It's about understanding that small actions, repeated consistently, create compound results. But here's the part that trips most people up. Your brain will fight you on this. It will tell you that what you're doing doesn't matter, that you're not seeing results fast enough, that you should try something else. Your brain is trying to protect you from wasting energy on things that don't provide immediate benefits. But your brain doesn't understand compound interest. Every time you choose the small, consistent action over the immediate pleasure, you're making a deposit in your future self's account. Every time you choose the cookie over the apple, watch TV instead of reading, or hit snooze instead of getting up, you're making a withdrawal. The beautiful thing is you get to choose. Every single day, hundreds of times a day, you get to choose which direction you're heading. Most people think they need to change everything at once. They try to revolutionize their entire life on Monday morning. New diet, new workout routine, new morning schedule, new everything. By Wednesday, they're exhausted. By Friday, they're back to their old habits. But what if you just changed one thing? What if you just focused on being 1% more consistent than yesterday? That's the foundation we're building here. Not perfection, not dramatic transformation, just simple, boring, incredibly powerful consistency. The people living the life you want figured this out. They stopped looking for shortcuts and started showing up every day, even when they didn't feel like it. Especially when they didn't feel like it. That's what separates the people who achieve their goals from the people who just talk about them. They learn that success isn't about what you do occasionally. It's about what you do consistently. And once you really understand this, once it clicks in your bones, everything changes. Not overnight, but inevitably. Chapter 2, The Science of Habit Formation. Okay, so we know consistency works, but have you ever wondered what's actually happening inside your brain when you're trying to build a new habit? Turns out there's some pretty amazing science behind this. And once you understand it, building habits becomes a lot less mysterious and a lot more predictable. Your brain is basically a prediction machine. It's constantly trying to figure out what's going to happen next so it can prepare. And one of the ways it does this is by creating these automatic loops. Scientists call it the habit loop, and it has 3 simple parts. First, there's a cue, something in your environment that triggers your brain to go into automatic mode. Could be seeing your running shoes by the door. Could be your phone buzzing. Could be walking into your kitchen. Then there's the routine, the actual behavior your brain runs on autopilot. You put on the shoes and go for a run. You check your phone. You open the fridge. Finally, there's the reward. Your brain gets something it wants. The runner's high, the dopamine hit from social media, the taste of whatever you found in the fridge. And here's the crazy part. Your brain doesn't care if the habit is good or bad. It just cares that the loop is complete. This is why you can drive home from work and not remember the trip. Your brain saw the cue, leaving the office, ran the routine, driving the familiar route, and got the reward, arriving safely. Loop complete. But here's where it gets interesting for building new habits. MIT researchers put electrodes in mice brains and watched what happened when they learned new behaviors. At first, the mice had to think about everything. Their brains were working hard, processing every decision. But after a few weeks of repetition, something changed. The brain activity at the beginning and end of the behavior increased, but everything in the middle went quiet. The behavior had become automatic. Think about when you first learned to drive. You had to consciously think about every single thing. Check mirrors, hands at 10 and 2, foot on brake, look both ways. Your brain was on overdrive. Now, you can drive while having a conversation, listening to music, and thinking about what you're having for dinner. The driving has become so automatic that your conscious mind is free to wander. That's your brain being efficient. Instead of burning energy on decisions you've made 1,000 times, it creates these neural shortcuts. And the more you use a shortcut, the stronger it becomes. Picture it like this. Imagine your brain is a dense forest. The first time you walk from point A to point B, you have to push through branches, step over logs, and find your way. It's slow and requires a lot of effort. But if you walk that same path every day, something happens. The grass gets worn down. The branches get pushed aside. Pretty soon, there's a clear trail. The more you use that trail, the wider and clearer it becomes. Eventually, it's so well-worn that you could walk in the dark. That's exactly what happens with your habits. Every time you repeat a behavior, you're making the neural pathway a little bit stronger, a little bit clearer. And here's the really cool part. Your brain is constantly changing. Scientists used to think that once you reached adulthood, your brain was pretty much set. But we now know that's completely wrong. Your brain has something called neuroplasticity. Neuro means brain, and plasticity means changeable. Your brain literally rewires itself based on what you do repeatedly. London taxi drivers have larger areas of their brain dedicated to spatial memory because they spend years memorizing the city's streets. Musicians have enhanced areas for fine motor control. Your brain grows to match your habits. So every time you choose to do something consistently, you're not just changing your behavior. You're changing the physical structure of your brain. But here's where most people get tripped up. You've probably heard that it takes 21 days to form a habit. That number gets thrown around everywhere. The problem is it's completely made up. Well, not made up, but taken way out of context. A plastic surgeon in the 1960s noticed that his patients took about 21 days to get used to their new appearance. Somehow this got twisted into, it takes 21 days to form any habit. The real research tells a different story. Dr. Philippa Lally at University College London studied 96 people as they tried to build new habits. She wanted to know how long it really takes for a behavior to become automatic. The answer? It depends on the habit, but the average was 66 days. Some people took 18 days for simple habits like drinking a glass of water after breakfast. Others took 254 days for more complex habits like doing 50 sit-ups after morning coffee. Here's what this means for you. If you've been trying to build a habit for 3 weeks and it still feels hard, you're not broken. You're normal. You're probably right on track. The problem with the 21-day myth is that it makes people think something's wrong with them when habits don't stick quickly. They give up right when they're about to break through. But there's more to this story. Your brain runs on something called willpower, and willpower works like a muscle. Use it too much, and it gets tired. This is why you can eat healthy all day, but end up ordering pizza at night. Your willpower is depleted. But here's the beautiful thing about habits. Once they become automatic, they don't require willpower anymore. When you first start exercising, you have to force yourself to go to the gym. You have to think about it, plan for it, talk yourself into it. That's your willpower working overtime. But after a few months of consistency, something shifts. Going to the gym stops being a decision you make. It becomes something you just do, like brushing your teeth or putting on your seatbelt. This is why consistent people don't seem to struggle as much. It's not that they have more willpower. It's that they've automated more of their good behaviors. And here's where dopamine comes in. Dopamine is often called the feel-good chemical, but that's not quite right. Dopamine is actually about anticipation and prediction. It's what makes you want to repeat behaviors. When you're building a new habit, your brain releases dopamine when you get the reward. But after a while, something interesting happens. Your brain starts releasing dopamine at the cue, before you even do the behavior. This is why you might start craving your morning run or feeling excited about your evening reading time. Your brain has learned to anticipate the reward, and it's motivating you to complete the loop. But here's the catch. If you're inconsistent, this process breaks down. Your brain never learns to anticipate the reward because it never knows if the reward is coming. This is why sporadic effort feels so much harder than consistent effort. When you're inconsistent, you're fighting your brain's natural systems. When you're consistent, you're working with them. The research shows that people who successfully build habits focus on consistency over intensity. They'd rather do something small every day than something big once in a while. Because every single repetition is sending a signal to your brain. This matters. Pay attention. Make this easier next time. Your brain is listening to those signals, and it's responding by literally rewiring itself to support your new behavior. Scientists can now see this happening in real time using brain scans. They can watch neural pathways strengthen with repetition. They can see the areas responsible for decision-making quiet down as behaviors become automatic. This isn't just theory anymore. It's visible, measurable science. So when you're struggling with a new habit, when it feels hard and you're questioning whether it's worth it, remember this. Your brain is working behind the scenes, laying down new neural pathways, building new automatic responses. Every single day you show up, you're making tomorrow a little bit easier. Not because you'll have more motivation, but because you'll need less. Your brain is literally changing to support your new behavior. The people who succeed at building habits understand this. They don't rely on feeling motivated. They rely on the science of repetition. They know that every consistent action is an investment in their future self's automatic behavior. They trust the process even when they can't see the progress, because they understand that their brain is always working, always adapting, always trying to make their life easier. And that's exactly what we're going to use to your advantage. Chapter 3, The Psychology of Starting Small. So now you understand how your brain forms habits. But here's where most people mess up. They try to go from zero to hero overnight. Monday morning rolls around, and they decide they're going to work out for an hour every day, read for 30 minutes, meditate for 20 minutes, eat perfectly, wake up at 5 a.m., and completely reorganize their life. By Wednesday, they're exhausted. By Friday, they're back to their old patterns. Sound familiar? Here's what's happening. You're asking your brain to do too much, too fast. Remember, your brain's job is to keep you alive and conserve energy. Sudden massive changes trigger alarm bells. Your brain sees big changes as potential threats. Why are we suddenly doing everything differently? This might be dangerous. Let's go back to what we know is safe. But there's a way to sneak past your brain's defense systems. Start so small that your brain doesn't even notice you're changing. I'm talking ridiculously small, embarrassingly small, so small that you almost feel silly doing it. Want to start exercising? Don't plan to work out for an hour. Plan to put on your workout clothes. That's it. Want to start reading more? Don't commit to reading for 30 minutes. Commit to reading 1 page. Want to start meditating? Don't sit for 20 minutes. Sit for 1 minute, or even 30 seconds. This probably sounds stupid, right? How is putting on workout clothes going to get you fit? How is reading 1 page going to make you smarter? Here's the thing. It's not about the immediate result. It's about becoming the type of person who does these things. When you put on your workout clothes every day, you're not just getting dressed. You're practicing being someone who exercises. You're building the identity of a fit person. And here's what happens. Once you're in your workout clothes, you'll often end up doing a few exercises. Not because you have to, but because you're already dressed for it. Once you read 1 page, you'll often keep reading. Not because it's required, but because you're already engaged with the book. This is the psychology of momentum. Starting is the hardest part. Your brain has to overcome inertia, make decisions, expend energy. But once you're in motion, staying in motion becomes easier. Newton figured this out centuries ago. An object at rest stays at rest. An object in motion stays in motion. This law doesn't just apply to physics. It applies to human behavior too. The goal isn't to read 1 page forever. The goal is to become someone who reads daily. Once that identity is established, increasing the amount becomes natural. But most people skip this crucial step. They want to jump straight to the advanced version without building the foundation. It's like trying to bench press 200 pounds on your first day at the gym. You haven't built the strength, the technique, or the neural pathways. You're setting yourself up to fail. Instead, successful people understand something called minimum viable effort. What's the smallest possible version of this habit that you could do even on your worst day? If you want to exercise regularly, what could you do when you're tired, stressed, short on time, and not feeling motivated? Maybe it's 5 push-ups. Maybe it's a 2-minute walk around the block. Maybe it's just putting on your running shoes. The key is finding something so easy that you can't say no. Something that requires almost no willpower, no special conditions, no perfect timing. Because here's what research shows. People who start small and build up are way more successful than people who start big and burn out. There's this concept called the 2-minute rule. Any habit you want to build should take less than 2 minutes to do when you're starting out. Want to run a marathon? Start with put on my running shoes. Want to eat healthier? Start with eat 1 piece of fruit. Want to learn a language? Start with open the language app. This might seem too simple, but there's powerful psychology at work here. First, you're removing the decision fatigue. When a habit takes 2 minutes or less, you don't need to debate whether you have time for it. You just do it. Second, you're proving to yourself that you can follow through. Every time you complete your tiny habit, you're building confidence in your ability to stick to commitments. Third, you're establishing the routine without overwhelming your willpower. Since it's so small, you're not depleting your mental energy. And fourth, you're creating what psychologists call small wins. These are minor victories that create momentum and make you feel good about yourself. Small wins are incredibly powerful because they change how you see yourself. When you read 1 page every day for a week, you start thinking of yourself as someone who reads. When you do 5 push-ups every morning for 2 weeks, you start thinking of yourself as someone who exercises. This identity shift is everything. Most people try to change their behavior by focusing on outcomes. I want to lose 20 pounds, or I want to read 50 books this year. But behavior change that lasts comes from identity change. Instead of, I want to lose weight, successful people think, I am someone who takes care of their body. Instead of, I want to read more, they think, I am a reader. When your identity aligns with your desired behavior, consistency becomes natural. You're not forcing yourself to do something foreign. You're just being who you are. But identity change happens through repetition of small behaviors. You become what you repeatedly do. Here's another reason starting small works. It eliminates analysis paralysis. How many times have you spent more time planning to do something than actually doing it? You research the perfect workout routine for weeks, but never actually exercise. You buy books on learning languages, but never open them. When you start small, there's nothing to overthink. Put on workout clothes. Read 1 page. Do 5 push-ups. No complex planning required. And here's the beautiful thing. Once you start, you often do more than the minimum. Not because you have to, but because you want to. You put on your workout clothes, and since you're already dressed, you might as well do some stretches. You do some stretches, and since you're already moving, you might as well do some exercises. This is called the getting started effect. The hardest part of any task is beginning. Once you've started, momentum carries you forward. But if you set the bar too high initially, you never get past the starting line. Think about perfectionism for a minute. Perfectionism seems like it would help you succeed, right? If you have high standards, you'll achieve more. Actually, perfectionism is one of the biggest enemies of consistency. Perfectionists have an all-or-nothing mentality. If they can't do something perfectly, they don't do it at all. They'd rather not exercise than do a mediocre workout. They'd rather not write than write something imperfect. But here's the truth. Good enough done consistently beats perfect done occasionally. Every single time. A decent workout every day for a year will get you in better shape than an amazing workout once a week. Reading for 10 minutes daily will teach you more than reading for 3 hours once a month. Consistency compounds. Perfection doesn't. This is hard for a lot of people to accept because we're surrounded by highlight reels. We see other people's best moments and compare them to our everyday reality. But the people you admire didn't get there through perfect days. They got there through a series of pretty good days strung together over time. So start small. Start embarrassingly small. Start so small that you can't fail. Because every small action is a vote for the type of person you want to become. And eventually, those votes add up to a clear winner. Remember, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And the best systems are built one tiny, consistent action at a time. The question isn't whether you can do something big today. The question is, what's the smallest thing you can do today that moves you in the right direction? Start there. Trust the process. Let momentum do the rest. Chapter 4. Designing your environment for success. Here's something most people never think about. Your environment is constantly making decisions for you. Every single day, your surroundings are either pushing you toward your goals or pulling you away from them. And most of the time, you don't even notice it happening. Think about the last time you mindlessly grabbed a snack, or scrolled social media for way longer than you planned, or skipped your workout because your gym clothes were buried somewhere in your closet. None of these were really decisions in the traditional sense. They were just responses to your environment. The good news is, once you understand this, you can flip the script. Instead of fighting your environment, you can design it to work for you. Professional chefs understand this better than almost anyone. Walk into any restaurant kitchen, and you'll see something called mise en place. It's French for everything in its place. Before the dinner rush starts, every ingredient is prepped. Every tool is positioned exactly where it needs to be. Why? Because when things get crazy busy, there's no time to think about where stuff is. The environment needs to support the behavior automatically. Your life works the same way. When you get home from a long day at work, you don't have much mental energy left for making good decisions. If you have to search for your workout clothes, move stuff around to make space, and figure out what exercises to do, you're probably going to end up on the couch instead. But if your workout clothes are laid out, your space is ready, and your routine is clear, suddenly exercising becomes the easier choice. This is what behavioral scientists call choice architecture. The way options are presented influences which ones you pick. Grocery stores know this. That's why the candy is at a level near the checkout line, and the healthy snacks are tucked away where you have to look for them. But you can use the same principles in your own space. Let's talk about friction. In physics, friction is the resistance that slows things down. In behavior change, friction works the same way. The more steps required to do something, the less likely you are to do it. Want to read more? Don't keep your books in another room. Put one on your nightstand, one by your coffee maker, one in your car. Want to eat healthier? Don't hide the good food in the back of the fridge. Put the vegetables at eye level and the junk food in the crisper drawer where you can't see it. Want to exercise more? Keep your workout clothes visible and your running shoes by the door. Every small barrier you remove makes the behavior a little more likely. But here's the flip side. You can add friction to behaviors you want to avoid. Want to watch less TV? Unplug it after each use and put the remote in another room. Those extra 30 seconds of effort will make you pause and consider whether you really want to watch. Want to check your phone less? Turn off notifications, log out of social media apps, or charge your phone in another room at night. Adding just a little bit of friction to bad habits can dramatically reduce how often you do them. This isn't about having superhuman willpower. It's about being smart with your setup. Your brain is always looking for the path of least resistance. So make sure the path of least resistance leads where you want to go. Let's get specific about different areas of your life. For health and fitness, put your workout clothes out the night before. Keep healthy snacks visible and junk food out of sight. Set up a designated exercise space, even if it's just a yoga mat in the corner. For learning and productivity, clear your workspace before you finish each day. Keep books, notebooks, or whatever tools you need within arm's reach. Remove distractions like your phone or close unnecessary browser tabs. For relationships, put your phone in a drawer during dinner. Create phone-free zones in your home. Set up your space to encourage conversation rather than individual screen time. The key is to think like a designer. How can you arrange things so that the behavior you want is the obvious choice? Here's something interesting. Visual cues are incredibly powerful. Your brain processes visual information faster than any other type. When you see something, it immediately triggers associations and potential actions. This is why putting a book on your pillow reminds you to read before bed. Why laying out your workout clothes reminds you to exercise. Why keeping a water bottle on your desk reminds you to stay hydrated. But it also works in reverse. Seeing your phone reminds you to check messages. Seeing snacks on the counter reminds you to eat them. Seeing the TV remote reminds you to turn it on. So be intentional about what you keep visible. One of the most successful writers I know has a very specific setup. Her desk faces a blank wall. No distractions, no interesting things to look at. Just a computer, a notebook, and a single pen. She doesn't rely on discipline to avoid distractions. She designed her environment so there are no distractions available. Another approach is to batch similar activities together. Keep all your workout gear in one place. Create a dedicated reading corner with good lighting and no distractions. Set up a specific area for paying bills or doing paperwork. When everything you need for a particular activity is in one place, starting becomes much easier. You don't waste mental energy gathering supplies or setting up. This is especially important for habits you want to do daily. If you want to meditate every morning, create a meditation corner with a cushion, maybe a candle, whatever helps you get in the right mindset. Don't make yourself set it up fresh every time. If you want to cook more meals at home, organize your kitchen so the tools you use most often are the easiest to reach. Keep healthy ingredients visible and accessible. The goal is to reduce what researchers call activation energy, the amount of effort required to get started. High activation energy kills habits before they begin. Low activation energy makes habits almost inevitable. Think about streaming services. They make it incredibly easy to watch the next episode. One click and it starts automatically. They've eliminated almost all friction from the experience. You can do the same thing with your good habits. Here's a simple exercise. Pick one habit you want to build. Now, look at your environment and count how many steps are required to do that habit. Want to drink more water? How many steps from where you spend most of your time to getting a glass of water? Can you reduce that number? Want to exercise more? How many steps from deciding to work out to actually starting? Can you eliminate some of them? Every step you remove makes success more likely. But don't try to optimize everything at once. Pick one habit, design your environment to support it, let that become automatic, then move on to the next one. Remember, you're not trying to force yourself to have perfect discipline. You're trying to make good choices easier and bad choices harder. Your environment should be your ally, not your enemy. It should whisper encouragement for your goals, not temptation for your old patterns. Most people underestimate how much their surroundings influence their behavior. But once you start paying attention, you'll see it everywhere. The restaurant that puts breadsticks on the table before you order. The store that plays slow music to make you browse longer. The app that sends notifications right when you're most likely to engage. Everyone else is designing environments to influence your behavior. Why not design your own environment to influence your behavior in the direction you actually want to go? It's not about perfection. It's about making the right choice a little bit easier day after day after day. Small changes in your environment can lead to big changes in your behavior. And unlike willpower, your environment works 24 hours a day, even when you're tired, stressed, or distracted. So look around. What is your environment telling you to do? And more importantly, what do you want it to tell you to do? The answer to that question might be the difference between the person you are and the person you want to become. Chapter 5, the Consistency Calendar Method. Let's transform abstract consistency into a concrete, visual system that will keep you accountable to yourself. You know what's funny? Most people think consistency is this mysterious force that some people just naturally have. Like they were born with some special gene that makes them show up every day. That's complete nonsense. Consistency isn't magic. It's not willpower. It's not some personality trait you either have or you don't. Consistency is a system. And like any good system, it can be learned, practiced, and mastered by anyone willing to put in the work. The most driven people in the world figured this out long ago. They stopped relying on motivation and started relying on systems. They stopped hoping they'd feel like doing the work and started creating frameworks that made the work inevitable. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most powerful systems ever created for building unstoppable consistency. It's called the Consistency Calendar Method, and it's so simple that most people dismiss it. But don't let that fool you. This system has been used by comedians to write material, athletes to train for the Olympics, and CEOs to build billion-dollar companies. Here's how it works. Every day, you complete your chosen behavior. You mark it on a calendar. That's it. No fancy apps. No complicated tracking. Just a simple X on a calendar. Sounds too basic to work, right? Here's what happens when you start marking those X's. First, you create what psychologists call a visual representation of progress. Your brain loves patterns, and when it sees a chain of X's building up, it wants to keep the pattern going. But there's something deeper happening here. Each mark on that calendar isn't just tracking a behavior. It's recording a decision. A moment when you chose to be the person you said you wanted to be. And when you look at that calendar, you're not just seeing marks. You're seeing evidence of your commitment. Proof that you can do what you say you're going to do. This is why the calendar method works when other tracking systems fail. It's not about the data. It's about the identity. Every X is a vote for who you're becoming. Every day you mark that calendar, you're telling yourself, I'm the kind of person who follows through. But here's where most people mess this up. They try to track everything. They want to mark their exercise, their reading, their meditation, their diet, their water intake, their sleep. Pretty soon, they're spending more time tracking than actually doing. The calendar method works best when you focus on one thing. One behavior, one commitment. Pick the habit that matters most to you right now. The one that, if you did it consistently for 6 months, would change everything. Maybe it's getting up early. Maybe it's working out. Maybe it's writing. Maybe it's making sales calls. Maybe it's spending time with your family without your phone. Whatever it is, that's your one thing. That's what goes on the calendar. Now, here's the key. You're not tracking perfection. You're tracking consistency. Let me explain the difference. Perfection says you have to do your full workout every single day. Consistency says you have to do something active every single day. Perfection says you have to write for an hour every morning. Consistency says you have to write something every morning. Perfection says you have to meditate for 20 minutes. Consistency says you have to sit quietly for at least 1 minute. See the difference? Perfection is rigid. Consistency is flexible. This is what I call the 80-20 rule of habit building. 80% of the time, you do the full version of your habit. 20% of the time, you do the minimum viable version. Sick with the flu? Do 5 push-ups instead of your full workout. Traveling for work? Read 1 page instead of your usual chapter. Stressed about a deadline? Take 3 deep breaths instead of your full meditation. The goal isn't to maintain perfect performance. The goal is to maintain the streak. Because here's what research shows. People who maintain streaks, even imperfect ones, are far more successful than people who do things perfectly but inconsistently. Your brain doesn't care if you did a perfect workout. It cares that you showed up. It cares that you kept the promise to yourself. But what happens when you break the chain? This is where the recovery protocol comes in. First, don't beat yourself up. Missing 1 day doesn't erase weeks of progress. You're not back to square one. You're 1 day behind. Second, get back on track immediately. Don't wait for Monday. Don't wait for next month. Don't wait for the perfect moment. The next day, mark that X. Third, analyze what happened. Was it a scheduling issue? A motivation problem? An environmental factor? Figure out what broke down so you can prevent it next time. Here's the truth. You will break the chain. Everyone does. The difference between people who succeed and people who quit is how they respond to the break. Successful people treat breaks as data, not failures. They adjust their system and keep going. Unsuccessful people treat breaks as evidence that they're not cut out for this. Which one are you going to be? Now let's talk about the actual calendar. You have 2 options, digital or physical. Both work, but they work differently. Digital calendars are convenient. You can set reminders, track multiple habits, analyze your data. Apps like Habitica, Streaks, or even a simple spreadsheet can work. But there's something special about physical calendars. When you mark an X with a pen, you're engaging more of your senses. You see the mark, you feel the pen, you hear the scratch of ink on paper. It's more real, more concrete. Plus, when you hang that calendar where you can see it, it becomes a constant reminder. Every time you walk by, you see your streak. You're reminded of your commitment. I recommend starting with a simple wall calendar. Hang it somewhere you'll see it every day. Kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, office, somewhere you can't miss it. Get a red marker. Make those X's bold and bright. Make them impossible to ignore. But here's the secret sauce: celebration rituals. Most people mark their calendar and move on. They're missing the most important part. When you mark that X, celebrate. Not with a party or a reward that undermines your goal. Just acknowledge what you did. Say yes out loud. Do a little dance. Smile. High-five yourself in the mirror. It sounds silly, but it works. Your brain releases dopamine when you celebrate. That dopamine creates a positive association with the behavior. It makes you want to do it again. This is why kids love getting gold stars. It's not about the star. It's about the feeling of achievement, the moment of recognition. You need to be your own teacher. Give yourself those gold stars. Set up milestone celebrations too. After 1 week, treat yourself to something small. After 1 month, something bigger. After 3 months, something really special. Not food rewards if you're trying to eat better. Not shopping rewards if you're trying to save money. Rewards that align with your values and support your goals. Maybe it's new workout clothes after a month of exercise. Maybe it's a nice notebook after a month of writing. Maybe it's a massage after a month of early mornings. The key is to plan these celebrations in advance. When you're in the middle of building a habit, it's hard to remember to celebrate. But if you've already decided what you'll do, it happens automatically. Here's something most people don't realize. The calendar method works because it makes consistency competitive. You're not competing against other people. You're competing against yourself. Specifically, you're competing against your past self. Every day, you're trying to beat yesterday's version of you. Not by doing more or doing better, but by simply showing up. Can you get to day 2, day 3, day 7, day 30? It becomes a game. And games are fun. Games are engaging. Games make you want to keep playing. This is why the most successful people often have the longest streaks. They've turned consistency into a sport. Jerry Seinfeld used this method to become one of the most successful comedians ever. He got a big wall calendar and marked an X every day he wrote jokes. After a few days, he had a chain. His only job was to not break the chain. Don't break the chain became his mantra. Not write the best jokes. Not be funnier than everyone else. Just don't break the chain. Olympic athletes use streak tracking to maintain their training schedules. They don't track how fast they ran or how much they lifted. They track whether they showed up. Business leaders use it to maintain their most important habits. Warren Buffett reads for hours every day. He's been doing it for decades. That's a decades-long streak. The habit doesn't have to be huge to be powerful. Small actions, repeated consistently, create extraordinary results. But here's what separates the calendar method from other tracking systems. It's about identity, not performance. You're not trying to prove you're the best. You're trying to prove you're consistent. You're not trying to impress anyone else. You're trying to keep a promise to yourself. And every time you mark that calendar, you're strengthening that identity. You're becoming the kind of person who does what they say they're going to do. That's the real power of the calendar method. It's not about the habit you're tracking. It's about the person you're becoming. Someone who shows up. Someone who follows through. Someone who keeps their word, especially to themselves. In a world full of people who start strong and fade fast, being consistent makes you rare. It makes you valuable. It makes you different. The calendar method gives you a simple, visual way to build that consistency. One day at a time, one X at a time, one decision at a time. Progress, not perfection, is the goal. Every mark on your calendar is a vote for the person you're becoming. So get your calendar, choose your habit, make your first mark, then do it again tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. Don't break the chain. Your future self is counting on you. Chapter 6. Overcoming obstacles and staying consistent. Consistency isn't about never failing. It's about failing forward and getting back on track faster each time. Let's get real for a minute. You're going to mess up. You're going to have days when you don't feel like showing up. You're going to face situations that throw your carefully planned routine out the window. Your alarm won't go off. You'll get sick. Your kid will have a meltdown right when you're supposed to work out. Your boss will dump an urgent project on your desk. Life will happen, and when it does, you'll face a choice. You can let one bad day turn into two bad days turn into a week turn into, I guess I'm just not the type of person who can stick to things. Or you can learn what the most driven people already know. Obstacles aren't roadblocks. They're just detours. The difference between people who achieve their goals and people who give up isn't that successful people face fewer obstacles. It's that they've learned how to navigate around them. They've developed what I call obstacle immunity. They expect problems, prepare for them, and have systems in place to deal with them. Let's start with the biggest lie in personal development, that you need motivation to be consistent. Motivation is a terrible foundation for lasting change. Here's why. Motivation is an emotion, and emotions are temporary. They come and go like weather patterns. Some days you feel motivated. Some days you don't. Building your consistency on motivation is like building your house on sand. It might work for a while, but the first storm will knock it down. Think about it this way. Are you motivated to brush your teeth every morning? Probably not. You don't wake up thinking, oh man, I am so excited to brush my teeth today. You brush your teeth because it's what you do. It's part of your identity. It's a system you've built into your life. That's what real consistency looks like. It's not about feeling motivated. It's about showing up regardless of how you feel. The most driven people don't wait for motivation. They act, and motivation follows. They understand that discipline is doing what needs to be done even when you don't want to do it, especially when you don't want to do it. But here's where most people get confused. They think discipline means being a robot, following your plan no matter what, never adapting or adjusting. That's not discipline. That's stupidity. Real discipline is intelligent. It's flexible. It adapts to circumstances while staying committed to the outcome. Let me give you an example. You've committed to working out every morning at 6 a.m., but your child gets sick and you're up all night. At 5:30 a.m., you're exhausted, you've had 2 hours of sleep, and your body is running on fumes. The rigid approach says, I committed to working out at 6 a.m., so I'm working out at 6 a.m. You drag yourself to the gym, have a terrible workout, feel worse, and probably get sick yourself. The intelligent approach says, my goal is to move my body every day. Today, that might look different. Maybe you do some stretches. Maybe you take a walk around the block. Maybe you do 5 minutes of movement instead of your full routine. You kept your commitment to yourself without being an idiot about it. This brings us to one of the most important rules for staying consistent. Never miss twice. Here's how it works. When you miss your habit once, you get back on track the very next opportunity. No exceptions. No waiting for Monday. No, I'll start fresh next month. Missing once is an event. Missing twice is the start of a pattern. And patterns are incredibly hard to break once they get momentum. Your brain is always looking for evidence of who you are. If you miss once and then get right back on track, the story your brain tells is, I'm the kind of person who bounces back quickly. But if you miss twice in a row, the story becomes, maybe I'm not really the kind of person who does this. That's why the second miss is so dangerous. It's not about the missed action. It's about the story it creates. So make this your non-negotiable rule. You can miss once, but you never miss twice. Now let's talk about preparing for the obstacles you know are coming. Life is predictable in its unpredictability. You might not know exactly what will go wrong, but you know something will go wrong. The smart move is to plan for it. This is called if-then planning, and it's one of the most powerful tools for staying consistent. Here's how it works. You identify the most likely obstacles to your consistency, and then you create specific plans for dealing with each one. If I'm traveling for work, then I'll pack resistance bands and do a hotel room workout. If I'm sick, then I'll do light stretches instead of my full routine. If I have an early meeting, then I'll work out the night before instead of in the morning. If I'm feeling unmotivated, then I'll commit to just 5 minutes and give myself permission to stop after that. Notice the structure. If X happens, then I will do Y. This takes the decision-making out of the moment. When you're tired, stressed, or overwhelmed, you don't have to figure out what to do. You already know. The key is to be specific. Don't just say, I'll find time to work out. Say exactly when, where, and how you'll make it happen. Vague plans lead to vague results. Specific plans lead to specific actions. But even with the best planning, you're going to hit plateaus. Times when you're doing everything right, but not seeing progress. This is where most people quit. They think the system isn't working. They start looking for something new, something better, something that will give them faster results. Here's what they don't understand. Plateaus are not problems. They're part of the process. Every skill has plateaus. Every goal has plateaus. Every journey has flat stretches where it feels like nothing is happening. But something is happening. You're building the foundation for the next breakthrough. Think about learning to drive. At first, every lesson is progress. You learn to start the car, to steer, to brake. But then you hit a plateau where you're just driving. Day after day, practicing the same skills, not seeing dramatic improvement. But during that plateau, you're developing muscle memory. You're building confidence. You're preparing for more advanced skills. The same thing happens with any habit you're building. There will be times when it feels like you're not making progress. But you are. You're strengthening neural pathways. You're building identity. You're creating the foundation for future growth. The key is to trust the process during the plateau. Keep showing up. Keep doing the work, even when it feels pointless. Because here's what happens to people who push through plateaus. They break through to the next level. They experience what feels like sudden progress, but it's really the result of all that invisible work during the flat period. People who quit during plateaus never see what was waiting for them on the other side. Now let's address the mental game. When you miss a day or hit an obstacle, your brain will try to make it mean something about you as a person. I missed my workout. I guess I'm lazy. I ate junk food. I have no willpower. I slept in instead of getting up early. I'm not disciplined. This is where most people go wrong. They confuse actions with identity. They think one mistake defines who they are. But here's the truth. Failing at something doesn't make you a failure. Missing one workout doesn't make you lazy. Eating one bad meal doesn't make you unhealthy. You are not your actions. You are the accumulation of your actions over time. One data point doesn't make a trend. 10 data points might suggest a pattern. 100 data points create a clear picture. So when you mess up, treat it as data, not identity. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What does this tell me about my system? How can I adjust to make success more likely next time? This is how driven people think. They don't waste energy beating themselves up. They extract the lesson and move forward. They understand that setbacks are feedback. The system is telling you something. Maybe your goal is too ambitious. Maybe your environment needs adjustment. Maybe you need more support. Whatever it is, the setback contains valuable information, but only if you're willing to look at it objectively instead of emotionally. Here's another mental model that changes everything. The compound effect of getting back on track quickly. When you mess up and then immediately get back on track, you're not just maintaining your habit. You're building something even more valuable, resilience. Every time you bounce back quickly, you're proving to yourself that you can handle obstacles. You're building confidence in your ability to recover. This creates a positive spiral. The more confident you become in your ability to bounce back, the less scary obstacles become. The less scary obstacles become, the more likely you are to take on challenging goals. People who are afraid of failing never attempt anything meaningful. But people who know they can recover from failure are willing to take bigger risks and achieve bigger results. The faster you bounce back, the stronger this resilience muscle becomes. Think of it like this. Imagine two people who both mess up their diet on Saturday night. Person A spends the next 3 days feeling guilty, eating poorly, and promising to start over on Monday. Person B wakes up Sunday morning and immediately gets back on track. By Wednesday, Person A is further behind than they were on Friday. Person B is right back where they were, plus they've built confidence in their ability to recover. Over a year, this small difference in recovery time creates a massive difference in results. This is why the most consistent people aren't the ones who never mess up. They're the ones who mess up and get back on track the fastest. They've learned that consistency isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. They know that the path to any worthwhile goal includes obstacles, setbacks, and temporary failures. They expect these challenges and they're prepared for them. Most importantly, they understand that obstacles are not evidence that they should quit. Obstacles are evidence that they're doing something that matters. Easy goals don't have obstacles. Meaningful goals do. When you face resistance, when things get difficult, when obstacles appear, that's not a sign you're on the wrong path. That's a sign you're on a path that leads somewhere worth going. Champions aren't made in the gym. They're made from something deep inside them, a desire, a dream, a vision pursued with consistency. They understand that the goal isn't to avoid obstacles. The goal is to become the kind of person who overcomes them. Every obstacle you face is an opportunity to build that identity. Every time you choose to keep going when it would be easier to quit, you're becoming more resilient. Every time you get back on track after a setback, you're proving to yourself that you're the kind of person who doesn't give up. That's the real victory. Not avoiding problems, but becoming someone who solves them. So when obstacles show up in your life, and they will, remember this. They're not trying to stop you. They're trying to strengthen you. The question isn't whether you'll face obstacles. The question is, how quickly will you overcome them? Chapter 7, Advanced Consistency Strategies. Once you've mastered the basics, these advanced strategies will accelerate your progress exponentially. You've learned to start small. You've built your first consistent habit. You know how to bounce back from setbacks. Now it's time to level up. Most people stop here. They get one habit working and think they're done. But the most driven people understand something different. Consistency isn't just about individual habits. It's about creating systems, networks of behaviors that support and reinforce each other. It's the difference between playing checkers and playing chess. Checkers is simple. Move one piece at a time. Chess requires thinking several moves ahead, understanding how different pieces work together. Advanced consistency is chess-level thinking. Let's start with one of the most powerful techniques you've probably never heard of, habit stacking. Here's how it works. Instead of trying to remember to do new habits, you attach them to habits you already do automatically. You already brush your teeth every morning without thinking about it. That's a perfect anchor point. After I brush my teeth, I will do 5 push-ups. You already drink your morning coffee. That's another anchor. After I pour my coffee, I will write in my journal for 2 minutes. You already check your phone when you wake up. After I check my phone, I will read 1 page of a book. See the pattern? You're not creating new triggers. You're using existing ones. This works because your brain has already automated the first behavior. There's no decision fatigue, no need to remember. The established habit naturally flows into the new one. But here's where most people mess up habit stacking. They try to stack too many things at once. They think, after I wake up, I will make my bed, then meditate, then exercise, then journal, then make a healthy breakfast. That's not stacking. That's just making a long list. Real habit stacking connects one habit to one other habit. Keep it simple. Build the connection. Let it become automatic. Then add the next link. After a few months, you'll have these beautiful chains of behavior that happen almost without thinking. But let's go deeper. Let's talk about systems thinking. Most people see their habits as separate things. They work out to get fit. They read to get smarter. They meditate to reduce stress. But the most driven people see connections everywhere. When they exercise regularly, they sleep better. When they sleep better, they have more energy for deep work. When they do deep work consistently, they make more money. When they make more money, they have less financial stress. When they have less stress, they're more present with their family. One habit creates a cascade of positive effects. This is why some people seem to have their whole life together while others struggle with everything. It's not that successful people are better at everything. They just identified the keystone habits that make everything else easier. For many people, exercise is a keystone habit. When they work out regularly, they eat better, sleep better, feel more confident, and make better decisions in other areas. For others, it might be waking up early. The quiet morning time gives them space to think, plan, and start the day with intention. This affects every hour that follows. The question is, what's your keystone habit? What's the one behavior that, if you did it consistently, would make everything else fall into place? Once you identify it, that becomes your priority. Everything else is secondary until this one habit is rock solid. Now, let's talk about something most consistency advice completely ignores. Seasons. Your life has natural rhythms. Times when you have more energy, more focus, more time. And times when you're stretched thin, stressed out, or dealing with major changes. Most people try to maintain the exact same routines year-round. Same workout schedule in summer and winter. Same morning routine during busy seasons and slow seasons. This is like trying to plant the same crops year-round. It doesn't work because it ignores natural cycles. Smart farmers plant different crops in different seasons. Smart people adjust their consistency strategies based on their life seasons. During low-stress periods, you might tackle bigger challenges. Learn new skills. Build multiple habits simultaneously. During high-stress periods, you focus on maintenance mode. Keep your most important habits going, but don't try to add new ones. During transition periods, new job, new baby, moving house, you might temporarily scale back your expectations while you adapt. This isn't giving up. This is being strategic. The goal isn't to maintain peak performance every single day of your life. The goal is to maintain appropriate performance for your current season. Someone who tries to work out for 2 hours a day during their busiest season at work will probably end up working out 0 hours a day. Someone who scales back to 20 minutes during busy seasons keeps the habit alive and can scale back up when life allows. Which person is more consistent over the long term? This brings us to one of the most important concepts in advanced consistency: energy management. Most people think time management is the key to getting more done. They try to squeeze more activities into their schedule. But time isn't the limiting factor. Energy is. You have the same 24 hours as everyone else, but you don't have the same energy throughout those hours. You probably have 2 to 4 hours each day when you're at peak energy. Times when complex tasks feel easy, when creativity flows, when you can do your best work. You also have times when your energy is low. When even simple tasks feel difficult, when your brain feels foggy, when you're running on willpower alone. The secret is matching your most important habits to your highest energy times. If your goal is to write a book, don't try to write when you're exhausted after work. Write when your mind is fresh and focused. If your goal is to exercise, don't force yourself to work out when your energy is low. Find a time of day when movement feels natural. If your goal is to eat better, do your meal prep when you have energy and focus, not when you're tired and hungry. This is why morning routines are so powerful for many people. Morning is when most people have their highest energy, before the world makes demands on them, before decision fatigue sets in. But here's the key. It doesn't have to be morning. It has to be whenever your energy is highest. Some people are night owls. Some people have energy spikes in the afternoon. Some people feel most creative after a workout. The strategy is the same. Identify your peak energy times and protect them fiercely. Use them for your most important habits. Use your low energy times for low stakes activities. Checking email, doing laundry, watching TV. This one shift, matching habits to energy levels, can double or triple your consistency without adding any extra time to your schedule. Now let's talk about something that separates good from great. The ability to maintain consistency in multiple areas simultaneously. Beginners focus on one habit at a time. Intermediate practitioners can maintain several separate habits. Advanced practitioners create integrated systems where habits support each other. Here's what this looks like in practice. Instead of trying to eat better, exercise more, sleep better, and manage stress as separate projects, you design them as one system. You use exercise to improve sleep quality. You use better sleep to make healthy eating easier. You use good nutrition to have more energy for exercise. You use the confidence from physical fitness to handle stress better. Everything connects. Everything reinforces everything else. But this requires thinking beyond individual behaviors. It requires understanding the relationships between different areas of your life. When you eat processed foods, how does it affect your energy for exercise? When you stay up late scrolling your phone, how does it affect your morning routine? When you skip workouts, how does it affect your confidence at work? Most people never connect these dots. They wonder why they can't stick to their diet while they're chronically sleep deprived. They wonder why they can't focus at work while they're completely out of shape. Everything is connected. Once you understand the connections, you can design systems that work with these relationships instead of against them. This is why some people make changes that seem effortless, while others struggle with every small adjustment. The effortless people have figured out the system. The struggling people are fighting the system. But here's the catch. You can't build everything at once. Even advanced practitioners started with one habit and built from there. The key is to add new habits strategically. Each new habit should support the habits you already have, not compete with them. If you already exercise in the morning, maybe you add a few minutes of stretching afterward. If you already read before bed, maybe you add a few minutes of journaling. Each addition should make the system stronger, not more fragile. And here's something most people never consider: the power of saying no. Advanced consistency isn't just about what you do. It's about what you don't do. Every yes is a no to something else. Every commitment you make is a commitment you can't make somewhere else. The most consistent people are ruthless about protecting their priorities. They say no to good opportunities so they can say yes to great ones. They understand that you can't be consistent at everything, but you can be exceptionally consistent at the things that matter most. This requires brutal honesty about what matters and what doesn't. It requires saying no to things that seem important but aren't actually moving you toward your goals. It means saying no to social events that interfere with your sleep schedule. No to projects that would prevent you from exercising. No to commitments that would derail your morning routine. This isn't about being antisocial or selfish. It's about being intentional. Finally, let's talk about expanding consistency beyond your individual habits. The most driven people don't just build personal consistency. They build consistency into their relationships, their teams, their families. They create environments where everyone supports everyone else's growth. where good habits are contagious, where consistency becomes the culture, not just an individual effort. This might mean establishing family routines that support everyone's goals, creating team practices that make good habits easier, building accountability systems with friends who share similar values. When consistency becomes social, it becomes much more sustainable. You're not just accountable to yourself. You're accountable to people you care about. And you're not just trying to change your own behavior. You're part of a group that's all moving in the same direction. This is the ultimate level of consistency mastery. When your habits become so integrated into your life, your relationships, and your environment that they feel inevitable. When showing up consistently isn't something you have to force yourself to do. It's just who you are and how you live. Mastery is not a destination. It's a way of traveling. Consistency is your compass. The advanced strategies we've covered today aren't about being perfect. They're about being strategic. They're about understanding that small, intelligent choices compound into extraordinary results. But remember, every master was once a beginner. Every expert was once clueless. Every consistent person was once inconsistent. The difference isn't talent or luck or special circumstances. The difference is that they learned these principles and applied them consistently over time. You can do the same thing. One habit at a time, one day at a time, one choice at a time. The strategies are here. The system is proven. The only question is, will you use them? Conclusion. As we reach the end of our journey together, I want you to take a moment and think about where you were 2 hours ago. 2 hours ago, you might have been someone who struggled with follow-through, someone who started strong but faded fast, someone who had great intentions but inconsistent results. But right now, in this moment, you're different. You're armed with knowledge that most people will never learn. You understand the real mechanics of consistency. You know it's not about motivation. It's not about willpower. It's not about being superhuman. It's about systems. It's about starting ridiculously small. It's about bouncing back faster than you fall down. You know that the person who does 5 push-ups every day beats the person who does 100 push-ups once a month. You know that showing up for 2 minutes is infinitely more powerful than planning to show up for 2 hours. You understand something that took me years to figure out. Consistency is not about being perfect. It's about being persistent. It's not about never falling down. It's about always getting back up. Think about the stories we've covered today. Sarah, who went from struggling with basic habits to running a successful business. Mark, who transformed his health one small choice at a time. These weren't special people with special circumstances. They were regular people who learned what you just learned. And then they did something most people never do. They actually applied it. Because here's the thing, knowledge without action is just entertainment. You can know everything about consistency and still live an inconsistent life. But I don't think that's you. I think you're someone who takes action. Someone who doesn't just consume information, but uses it to build something better. The path to extraordinary results is paved with ordinary actions performed consistently. You now hold the blueprint. You know how to start so small it feels silly. You know how to stack habits onto things you already do. You know how to design your environment to make good choices easier. You know how to track without obsessing. How to celebrate without getting complacent. How to bounce back without beating yourself up. You know how to match your habits to your energy levels. How to adapt your routines to different seasons of life. How to say no to good things so you can say yes to great things. Most importantly, you know that consistency isn't a destination. It's a way of traveling. It's not something you achieve once and forget about. It's something you practice every single day. And every day you practice it, you get a little bit better. Not just at the specific habit, but at the skill of consistency itself. That's the real secret. Consistency is a skill. And like any skill, the more you use it, the stronger it becomes. 6 months from now, when you're living the life you designed through small, consistent actions, remember this moment. Remember that it all started with a decision to begin. A decision to stop waiting for motivation and start building systems. A decision to stop trying to change everything at once and start changing one thing consistently. A decision to stop being perfect and start being persistent. The science is clear. The strategies are proven. The examples are everywhere around you. People just like you're using these exact principles to build the lives they want. Not through dramatic overnight changes, but through small, intelligent choices repeated day after day. Your future self is counting on the choices you make today. Not the big, dramatic choices, though those matter too, but the small, seemingly insignificant choices that compound over time. The choice to do your 2 minutes of meditation, even when you don't feel like it. The choice to write one paragraph, even when inspiration doesn't strike. The choice to do 5 push-ups, even when you're tired. These moments, these tiny, quiet moments when nobody is watching, these are the moments that determine everything. Success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. Robert Collier said that decades ago, and it's still true today, maybe even more true today, in a world that's constantly telling you that you need to change everything overnight. That you need to think bigger, dream bigger, do bigger. But the people who actually build extraordinary lives know better. They know that big results come from small actions. They know that consistency beats intensity every single time. They know that the person who shows up every day with average effort will always beat the person who shows up occasionally with extraordinary effort. And now you know it too. So here's my challenge for you. Not some impossible, overwhelming challenge. Just a simple one. Tomorrow morning, do one small thing. Something so small it feels almost ridiculous. Something you're absolutely certain you can do. Do that one small thing, and then do it again the next day, and the day after that. Don't worry about building the perfect morning routine. Don't worry about changing your entire life. Just focus on that one small thing, because that's how every success story begins, with one small action, taken consistently. Before you go, I want to ask you for a small favor. If this audiobook has added value to your life, if you learn something new, if you feel more hopeful about building consistency, please hit the like button. It might seem like a small thing, but it helps us reach other people who need this message. People who are struggling with the same challenges you were struggling with 2 hours ago. And if you want to continue this journey, subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss our latest content. We're constantly creating new audiobooks and resources to help you build the life you want. Check out our complete personal development playlist in the description below. You'll find more life-changing audiobooks on habit formation, productivity, mindset, and personal growth. But most importantly, take what you've learned today and use it. Don't let this be just another piece of content you consumed. Let it be the beginning of a new way of living. Let it be the day you stopped trying to change everything and started changing one thing. The day you stopped waiting for motivation and started building systems. The day you decided that ordinary actions, performed consistently, were enough to create an extraordinary life. Thank you for investing these 2 hours in yourself. That investment will pay dividends for years to come if you act on what you've learned. Now go forth and let the power of consistency reshape your days, your habits, and ultimately your life. One small action at a time. Remember, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. Your consistent future begins now.